Hi all, welcome to i-tutor Academy. In today's session, we will start with Unit 11, subsection 4 of MMPC 010, that is profit maximizing output in the long run. So now let us analyze the profit maximizing output decision by perfectly competitive frame in the long run when all input and therefore cost are variable. So in the long run, a manager can choose to employ any plant size required to produce the efficient level of output that will maximize profit. So the plant size or scale of operation is fixed in the short run, but in the long run, it can be altered to suit the economic condition. In the long run, the firm attempt to maximizing profit in the same manner as in the short run, except that there are no fixed costs. So all costs are variable in the long run. Here again, the firm takes the market price as given, and this market price is the firm's marginal revenue. The firm would increase output as long as the marginal revenue from each additional unit is greater than the marginal cost of that unit. So it would decrease output when marginal cost exceeds marginal revenue. This way, the firm maximizes profit by equating marginal cost and marginal revenue. That is, MR is equal to MC. Figure 11.2, that is profit maximizing equilibrium in the long run. Okay, so this is quantity in x axis and in y axis price and cost is here. And the firm's long run average low cost, that is LAC, and marginal cost, that is LMC curves are shown figure 11.2. So this is 11.2 figure. The firm faces a perfectly elastic and demand indicating the equilibrium price, that is 17, which is the same as marginal revenue. So you may observe that as long as price is greater than LAC, the firm can make a profit. Therefore, any output ranging from 22 to 90 units yields some economic profit to the firm. And in figure 11.2, B and B raised to 1 are the break-even point at which the price equals LAC. Economic profit is 0 and the firm can earn only a normal profit. The firm, however, earns the maximum profit at the output level 240 units, and at this point, the marginal revenue equals LMC, and the firm would ideally select the plant size to produce 240 units of output. And note that in this situation, the firm would not produce 140 unit of output at point M, which is in the minimum point of LAC, and thus the firm would operate at a scale such that long run marginal cost equals price, and this would be the most profitable situation for an individual firm. And therefore, if the price is Rs 17 per unit, the firm will produce 240 unit of output, generating a profit of Rs 1,200,000. This profit is variously known as above normal, supernormal, or economic profit. So, the crucial question that one needs to ask is whether this is a sustainable situation in perfectly competitive market, whether a firm in a perfectly competitive industry can continue to make positive economic profit even in the long run. The answer is unambiguously no. So this result derives from the assumption that in a perfectly competitive market there are no barriers to entry. Recall that in the market economy, profit is a signal that guides investment and therefore resource allocation decisions. In this case, the situation will change with the other prospective entrants in the industry. The economic force that attracts new fame to enter into or drive out of an industry is the existence of economic profit or economic losses, respectively. An economic profit attracts new fame into the industry whose entry increases industry supply. As a result, the price would fall and the firm in the industry adjust their output level in order to remain at a profit maximization level. So this process continues until all economic profit are eliminated. There is no longer any attraction for new firm to enter since they can only earn normal profit. By observing figure 11.2, you should try to work out the price that will prevail in this market in the long run when all firms are earning normal profit. An analog to economic profit serves as signal to attract investment. Economic losses drive some existing fame out of the industry. The industry supply decline due to excess of these firms, which pushes the market price up. As the price As the prices have rise, all the fame in the industry adjust their output level in order to remain at a profit maximization level. So fames continue to exit until economic losses are eliminated and economic profit becomes zero. So that is fames earn only a normal rate of profit. So activity 2 is here based on this subsession, and please try to do it. In case any doubt, you can contact us. So next one is characteristics of monopoly. So what is characteristics of monopoly? Monopoly can be described as a market situation where the single firm controls the entire supply of a product which has no close substitutes. So the market structure characteristics of monopoly are listed below. This is number and size of distribution of seller, that is single seller, number and size of distribution of buyer unspecified, and product differentiation, conditions of entry and exit entry. Though the perfect competition and monopoly are the two extreme cases of market structure, they both have one thing in common: they do not have to compete with the other individual participants in the market. Sellers in perfect competition are so small that they can ignore each other. At the other extreme, the monopolist is the only seller in the market and has no competitors. The market or industry demand curve and that of the individual firm are the same under monopoly, since the industry consists of only one firm. And managers of fame in a perfectly competitive market facing a horizontal demand curve would have no control over the price, and they simply choose the profit maximizing output. However, the monopoly fame facing a downward sloping demand curve has power to control the price of its product. If the demand for the product remain unchanged, the monopoly firm can raise the price as much as it wishes by reducing its output. On the other hand, if the monopoly firm wishes to sell a larger quantity of its product, it must lower the price because total supply in the market will increase to the extent that its output increases. While an individual firm under perfect competition is a price taker, a monopolist firm is a price maker. So it may, however, be noted that to have price setting, however, a monopoly must not only be the sole seller of the product but also sell a product which does not have a close substitutes. So next one is profit maximizing output of a monopoly firm. So often students are tempted into thinking that since a monopolist is the only producer in the market, so he will be able to charge any price for the product. So while a monopolist will certainly charge a high price, so it must also ensure that it is maximizing profit. Our earlier discussion proves that a profit maximizing monopoly firm determines its output at that level where its marginal cost, that is MC curve, intersects its downward slope marginal revenue, that is MR, from below. And since the MR curve of the monopoly firm is below its average revenue or demand curve at all level of output, and at the equilibrium output level marginal revenue is equal to marginal cost, the profit maximizing monopoly price is greater than marginal cost. So you may recall the profit maximizing price under perfect competition is equal to marginal cost. So since the demand curve of the monopoly firm is above the firm's average cost curve, the price at equilibrium output is also greater than average cost. Therefore, supernormal profit are a distinguishing feature of equilibrium under. So this is figure equilibrium output and price under monopoly. So here is output and this is price. MR, AC, MC, etc. So the fame would enjoy such supernormal profit even in the long run because it is very difficult for new fame to enter in a monopolized market. So the determination of profit maximizing equilibrium output and price under monopoly is shown in figure 11.3, that is DD and MR are the, so you please refer from your IGNOU study material. This is figure 11.3. DD and MR are the downward sloping demand and marginal revenue curves respectively of the monopoly fame, and like that. So you can refer this from the figure 11.3. Next is monopoly power. What is monopoly power? The above analysis shown that whereas under perfect competition, price is equal to marginal cost and profit are normal in the long run. Under monopoly, the price is greater than marginal cost and profit are above normal even in the long run. So therefore, the monopolistic has power to charge a price which is higher than marginal cost and earn supernormal profit. So the extent of monopoly power of a firm can be calculated in terms of how much price is greater than marginal cost. So recall that a perfectly competitive firm sets P is equal to MC. Thus, the greater the difference, the greater is the monopoly power. An economist AP learner advised such an index to measure the degree of monopoly power and which has come to known as the learner index. And according to this index, the monopoly power of a firm is the equation. P is price of the firm product and MC is the firm's marginal cost. Okay, so that is the equation. And the monopoly power of a firm is inversely related to elasticity of demand for its product. The less elastic the demand of for its product, the greater would be its monopoly power and vice versa. As we have discussed block 2, we discussed the elasticity of demand depends on the number and the closeness of the substitute available for a product. So in the real world, we find some essential goods and services like life-saving medicines, petroleum, cooking gas, railway, etc. enjoy a high degree monopoly power because the demand for these products is highly inelastic. So left to itself, the monopoly could price such inelastic product at rates that do not meet the social objective of government and policymakers. So thus we often witness government intervention in monopolies. For example, railway ticket prices are fixed by the government and electricity tariff are set by a regulatory authority. The reason why monopolies need to be regulated is discussed in the next section. So next one is welfare, perfect competition versus monopoly. So our discussion reveals that in a pure monopoly, price will generally be greater than marginal cost and that the firm is able to generate supernormal profit at the expense of welfare of consumers and society even in the long run. So recall that the key conditions that give rise to monopolies are economies of scale and barriers to entry. And on the other hand, production process like food processing, textile, garments, wood and furniture, it is relatively easy to enter the market as a supplier. And for example, capital requirements are low and the sunk costs are also low. So many service industry like travel agencies fall into this category. So in such industries, competition ensures that prices are set right and moreover the thread of entry ensures that price never exceed long run average cost. And moreover, the competition also ensures that the price equals long run marginal cost. Hence, the price of a good accuracy reflects the opportunity cost of manufacturing it. And problems arise from leaving everything to the market. However, when a situation of monopoly occurs in economist jargon, there are economies of scale to be exploited when one company meets market demand. So there are typically also major barriers to entry in such industries, and most public utilities, electricity generation, water supply, gas supply and perhaps national telecommunication system have technologies of this sort. So there are several special problems for these industries. And first, their size and capital intensity often puts particular strain on private capital market in satisfying their investment needs. So in India in the 1990s, the strain was felt instead on the public coffers, and this was a major factor behind the move towards disinvestment and privatization. Hence, while for the example, automobile or chemicals manufacturer are also characterized by huge scale economies, government have rarely seen it as their role to regulate the companies in these industries. The question for policymaker is what to do about natural monopolies like power and water supply. So left to themselves, they will charge monopoly price and restrict output. The absence of any competitive thread will also probably leave such organization wasteful, inefficient and sluggish. So since all costs can be passed on to the consumers, there will be little incentives for managers to keep them under control. And experience from for example, the railway suggests that it will not be long before the absence of competitive pressure may damage the motives for innovation and change. So crucial in such a capital intensive sector. So thus in some cases a regulator is appointed who must fix the natural monopolist price. In India, the privatization of power and telecommunication has been accompanied by the creation of a regulator. So while there is no such institutions for cement, automobile or chemical industry. And the above discussion can also be illustrated with the help of figure 11.4, that is evaluation of monopoly. So please refer your IGNOU study material. Okay. And the consumer surplus will be the areas PCAD, and now consider output and price of the profit maximizing monopolist. As indicate in the figure, price would be PM and quantity would be QM. So notice that the monopolist will charge a higher price and produce a lower quantity as expected. The consumer surplus is reduced to PMAB, and the rectangle PCPMBC that was part of consumer surplus under the competition is now economic profit for the monopolist. So this economic profit represent income distribution from consumers to producers. So further, there is also a deadweight loss to society represented by the area BCD. They represent loss of consumer surplus that accrued under competition but is lost to society because of lower production levels under monopoly. So if we now consider the reverse case, the monopoly being broken to foster competition, the result will be transfer of income from producers to consumers and elimination of deadweight laws. And herein lies the economy's basis for the regulation of monopoly fame. So it is to generate the outcome of competitive market and pass this benefit to consumer in the form of lower prices. And if competition exists the market, then arguably that is the best regulation. If it does not and the industry is envisaged to play a social role, regulation of monopoly becomes an important policy objective. So activity 3 is here based on this section. So please try to do it. In between any doubt, you can contact us anytime. And for more MBA series, you just do like, share and subscribe our channel. Thank you so much.
i-tutor Academy presents IGNOU MBA Complete Syllabus Coverage Classes for individual students, semester-wise subject with online flexible timing. For more details, contact on +91 623 827 1885